and welcome to Mixology, where we launch each episode mixing up a beverage as we discuss how customer education and customer marketing mix together as scale engines to customer success. I'm Kristine Kukich, and along with Shannon Howard, we're talking about tech stacks and how to leverage your resources when your tech stack doesn't quite do what you need. And we're having a Rofignac PNW while we chat. Here's the ingredients: 1.5 ounces of rye whiskey, 1 ounce of Marionberry syrup. That's what gives it the PNW flair for the Pacific Northwest. A quarter ounce of grenadine, club soda, or sparkling water. Fill your highball glass with ice, pour in the whiskey, add the syrups, then top it off with the club soda. Mix it up a little in the glass, and you're ready to go. And then go ahead and listen in while we talk about resources and tech stacks.
Talking this time about I got a cobbler thing.
Yep.
Right? Okay. We talked once upon a time about how do we manage a solution if our vendors don't have something that we need, and what do we do? How do we figure it out? And I don't even remember which conversation spurred make the note we have to do a session on this, but
I think it just comes up all the time. Like there's no one perfect solution that's going to do everything. And I think it's very common, right? That we have to find some kind of workaround because our use case is particular, because this thing was set up this way, that we have to find a workaround. And then so how do we get creative in that? Yeah.
So as we focus on our three things this time, it is existing tech stack, teams that we already have, and let me get my third one over here.
Ask a friend.
Industry.
Phone a friend.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, phone a friend. Because let's start with tech stack first, because I think that's the most important part. How important do you think it is to have somebody in ops that on your team, to have an ops person on your team?
I don't ever think that it hurts. I think most people would benefit. I had someone say this last night, actually. They said, you'll spend a lot of time kind of fighting against ops people because maybe they're more process oriented, or they're maybe a little bit more detail oriented than some of us are. But then once you kind of like come to your understanding and appreciation of their skills and talents, you will never want to live without them. I am definitely at the never want to live without my optimizing everything and making it happen and connecting. And I don't have some of those like nitty gritty technical skills. I can be a little creative of like in a different way, this and this kind of do this type of thing. Like, could you also do such a thing? And those people have that firm understanding of how technology actually works to be able to say, yeah, we could do that. Or not quite like that, but I think I get what you're saying, and I could find a workaround.
Because that's the starting point. I don't know that I always have the depth of knowledge of my entire tech stack to be able to look and say, okay, I know we need to be able to do this thing. We've been given a goal in our goals and visions and strategy pieces, and we need to be able to do this. We need to be able to find this metric or build this thing. And I know that my LMS doesn't do this. It doesn't do this. It's not supposed to, right? It's not that it doesn't, it's a negligent piece of the LMS. It's that LMSs don't normally do this. And maybe there's something else that we have in the tech stack that could be leveraged to do this. But I don't know that I always have the cross-functional knowledge of all of the tech stack that we're using to be able to make that kind of a call. I know my tools, right? I have these 3 tools that I use religiously, frequently, and I could make them do all kinds of really cool things, but they won't do this one. So I'm going to need to check, right, what our existing tech stack looks like from others. So I need to leverage my team to say, okay, of the tools that we're using, guys, what can we do this? Do you think
Mhm.
that one of the tools that you're using could do something like this?
Mhm.
Right.
And that's where I think piece of advice that I would offer is frame it as what you need to get done, right? Because I remember at a point in my career when I was the more technical person and someone kept being like, I need you to do this exactly this way. And I'm like, that's not how technology works. And and they kept like, this is what it's going to look like. And I'm like, well, what do you need it to do? Right? Like, if you're trying to get to this outcome, like, there is a way to make that work within the technology, but it's not going to work the way that you maybe envisioned that it would. Right. And so, I mean, also, I just find like people who really understand technology really understand it, and they definitely don't want to be like told what to do and how to do it. And if you ask them to do something and they think, that's not how technology works, you're gonna like kind of think that way and treat you like you don't understand how technology works. So I usually will just like play into that and say, okay, on a scale of 0, you don't understand how technology works, to 10, yes, it is actually a toggle on the back end, like, where do we fall in, how easy this is to accomplish, right? And then I just say, this is what I'm trying to get done. And then their creative brains are thinking
Right.
about, okay, I could connect this and this, or I think we could port the data there, and this is what this could look like. So I think we often want to be prescriptive and say, like, this is exactly what I need you to do, but we need to be a little bit more consultative of, this is the outcome that I'm trying to get, whether it's like, I need this certification delivered this way, or this badge, like accreditation thing like this, or I need this information to write over to here in such a fashion. And then they're kind of figuring out how everything connects to do that.
Agreed. I think that we need to give the our team at least the cloudiness to be able to find their own direction. Right.
Mm-hmm.
As long as they get there, I honestly don't care
Yeah.
how we get there. I don't. As much as I would think it would go logically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Uh,
Yeah.
I may be completely off base, and all I care about is that we get to 5.
Yeah. I once said to a developer, hey, random thought, don't have to do it. Would kind of be fun if confetti fell from the screen when someone did like this accomplishment, when they accomplished something, they earned a certificate or something. And he goes, it's a plugin. Yeah, we can do that. And he just like installed it right there. And it was like that quick, So sometimes you're just kind of throwing something out there and we really don't know, how difficult it is or not, but to be consultative. Um, then we also talked about, so we have one, like, what's, within your existing tech stack, those operational
Right.
people. 2, what skills and talents are maybe latent on your team where people kind of know, right? Some hacky workaround. So maybe putting it out there. And I know this was one of your suggestions. So do you put it out as, hey, we have this problem to solve. Anybody have any creative ideas, or, want to try their hand at it?
I think that it comes into play when we start having those stand-ups, right? If we're doing the frequent conversations with our team,
Mm-hmm.
I think it becomes one of those great places to figure out where everybody stands. Here's the
Mm-hmm.
problem that we need to solve for. What do we know about this that we could do it? And as a team, we can get the suggestions. Again, if we're doing most of the things right, that kind of a conversation can be relatively organic,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because everybody's going to feel confident enough to be able to talk about what they know
Mm-hmm.
and ask questions without drama, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so there's that part to it. And then secondly, to be able to say, oh, again, we don't care about what the process looks like. What
Mm-hmm.
we're trying to do is get to this end point,
Yeah.
and whatever route we need to take to get there is at this point not important. We may have to tweak it because it could be too expensive, it could take too long, there are other things that might come into play, but we can't even analyze that if we don't have a plan.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And so what we're trying to figure out now is what's the plan. And I think our team is is the first place to go,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because we may have the skills or the tools internally
Mm-hmm.
that we can leverage to get there without having to go uh, outside to ask for something else, whatever that could
Mm-hmm.
mean. Again,
So
whether
maybe
it's
you flip that.
any other resources.
So maybe, bullet point one is asking your team, in those stand-ups. And then two is, okay, now we're casting a wider net to maybe our operations people to understand what's in our tech stack, how could we repurpose this?
And well, in other adjacent teams too, right?
Mhm. Sure.
Because there are enough teams who may use similar tools
Sure.
that we could grab some of their existing licenses, for example, to get into something and work with the tool that they're using, or even to go into pre-sales
Mm-hmm.
where sometimes money flows a little bit more freely.
Mm-hmm.
They'll spend for sales and for marketing in ways that they don't always for the customer experience.
What? No, I'm just
Yeah,
kidding.
well, surprise, surprise.
Obviously, this is true.
Like we know, like if you didn't know that, congratulations, because that means yay for you.
Yeah.
You've never had
Yeah.
that experience, right?
You're now empowered
Yay
with
for,
this knowledge.
and advocate that fact because we all want to come work there. And but the thought is that we can then widen the net within the organization as a whole to say we're trying to get here. This is the goal we're trying to solve to. And do you guys have any tools that we could use? Is there something that you're doing that can leverage that we can leverage so that we can build this cool
Mm-hmm.
new widget for whatever?
Yeah.
And that and if you're lucky, you can find that. It could
Yeah.
be that it's some in the tech stack as a little known usage in your Salesforce instance, or
Mhm.
something in your Gainsight instance, or your Zendesk instance, or whatever it is that other teams are using.
Mm-hmm.
HubSpot, they all have hidden components that
Sure.
we don't
Or things
always.
that could be repurposed
Mhm.
for other purposes, which kind of brings us to our third idea here, which is, ask a friend, post in the customer education Slack or the C-Lab community and ask people, or the customer marketing Slack. Has anybody done X before? Or I'm trying to get X to do Y. Has anybody done something similar? I mean, we see these questions regularly.
All the time. They are,
Yeah.
I think, by far the most frequent questions that we see are, I'm trying to
And
do something and I need help.
yeah, and I never see those posts go unresponded to, right? So even if someone doesn't have that exact experience, they'll probably chime in and say, "Okay, I haven't done that exactly, but I've done something similar and here's what I did." And then that sparks maybe a creative idea of,
Mhm.
"Oh, okay, yeah, maybe I could do something similar," and, kind of cobble things together.
And we just share so much.
Mhm. Definitely,
Competitors will talk to
yeah.
each other, and people share, and they're not afraid to do it. And
Mhm.
we don't share the privacy parts of our organization,
Yeah.
but we
Yeah.
do share the fact that we did this task was something that we did and we were successful. Or you know what, don't want to do it that way
Mhm.
because
Oh,
that one
yeah.
didn't work. That one didn't
Yeah,
work
I
at
tried
all.
that before and it didn't work. Yeah, so we can also kind of be like caution, right? Yeah, so asking other people can be a great resource. And I always encourage people, just ask, because you don't know what experience people have, and people are so generous and have a lot to offer. And people don't always, right? They're not always going to proactively write about how I cobbled together X, Y, and Z. But if you ask that question, they're, oh, yeah, I've done something similar to that. I'm happy to kind of record you a video or hop on a call or just type out my answer or share a Google Doc of like what I worked on. So people are really like good about helping each other.
So those are the three things then, right? We
Mm-hmm.
start with our team,
Mm-hmm.
and then it expands out to ops and the organization as a whole. And
Sure.
then it's the phone a friend piece where we take it out to our industry peeps and say, this is what I'm trying to do. Any words of wisdom?
Mm-hmm.
And we usually get something back. So
Yeah.
the challenges to all of that, what do we see as challenges to any of those methodologies?
Hmm. I mean, I feel like with your team, people either have that skill or experience or they don't. The main challenge is probably going to be around, okay, maybe I've identified that this platform can be used in this capacity or this person can help, and then getting whether it's access, a seat, permissions, integration permissions, right? Or actually getting that resource to be able to help with the project.
At all of the levels, I think. Or I think that the only other one that I would caution
Mm-hmm.
is when you do the industry piece, right? If you go out to the peeps, pay attention to who's saying what.
Oh, yeah, yeah, kind of
Sometimes,
learning about, yeah, yeah,
sometimes, sometimes it's not always right. Sometimes it's not always accurate. So,
sure, yeah.
but it's the same. It's like I'm getting ready to work having a conversation in a couple of weeks about trust but verify, and
Mhm.
so and I think that's part of it too. Test and figure it out, and then it comes back. Maybe our word for 2024 is actually iteration.
Yeah,
We have alignment was our word for 2023, so maybe the word for 2024 is iteration.
yeah.
Because that we've talked about that quite a bit this year, but that's also part of it is building up what those channels of communication look like, so that as you get new projects that have new components, you've built that motion
Mm-hmm.
that will get you through your team, through the ops, through your organization to your much wider net of peeps that you
Mm-hmm.
have. So it's challenges are always good. Growth is always good.
Yeah.
But it can be hard work.
Oh,
So
sure.
that's
Yeah.
it.
I would encourage people too, right? If you're advocating for help with a project or resource, like that's a great opportunity to make the business case, to actually talk about the business impact of the work that we're doing and why this resource is needed. And, like what's the cost of inaction? Is there a return on investment on this type of integration, or how is it going to make things better, right? One of my favorite ways to complement a business case is to include real customer feedback. Like if people have emailed saying, this is a pain in the butt, this is a pain in the butt, and they're saying the same thing over and over, I just screenshot and then I load them all up into a slide. I mean, it's a little funny to me, right? To skip to this slide and be like, but don't just take my word for it. And like, you just have 20 customer emails where they've all complained about the same thing. Just like puts it in perspective of, I'm not making this up. We get this question all the time, or this is a problem for people. So like there's the real cost to inaction. And then, here's also how it's impacting our customers. And then people tend to be more agreeable to like prioritizing that work. But it is a good opportunity for us to exercise that cross-functional relationship building and business acumen muscle to make the case for something to be prioritized.
So our three options then: existing tech stack, existing team,
Mm-hmm. Bona
out
fide.
to the ops and cross-functional, and then it's like concentric circles, right?
Mm-hmm.
Start
Yeah.
at the
Yep.
inside and then keep growing until you get out to where you get enough feedback to provide the answers that you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
If you're lucky, it stays all nice and neat in the inside, but it probably won't. You
Yeah,
probably it grows. It grows.
that's okay. That's how we learn. So.
There we go. All right, guys. One more wrap, and we will see you next time. Bye.